When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burden be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. There is no life without its hunger. Each restless heart beats so imperfectly. But when you come and I am filled with wonder, sometimes I glimpse your eternity. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be. Okay. Did anyone come here today hoping, praying, longing for someone to sing something, pray something, or preach something that would strip all your hope away? Anybody? Did anyone come here hoping to be discouraged? Did anyone come here today hoping that someone would knock all the wind out of your sails? No, I didn't think so. Nobody came here that way today. Nobody came here saying, please hurt me. Please strip away all my motivation for serving the Lord. Please discourage me. Please defeat me. We came here looking for the opposite, didn't we? We came here looking for encouragement, seeking hope, desiring to be motivated to greater things than the Lord. We came here looking for help. If I told you there was a secret that would allow you to have hope in this world, I know you would want to know what it is. In a world that is so filled with hopelessness, discouragement, and defeat, if I told you that I knew a way you could live your life every day and not lose heart, I don't think you would refuse to hear me when I tell you that secret. In 2 Corinthians 4, we will see what Paul tells us that he has found a secret to staying encouraged in the Lord. Let's go read 2 Corinthians 4, and I'm sure you realize that will be our focus. That chapter will be our focus today. 2 Corinthians 4. I will read 2 Corinthians 4, and then we will go into our discussion. 2 Corinthians 4, and I'm going to begin in verse 1. Paul says, therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not, but have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty, not walking in craftiness, nor handling the word of God deceitfully, but by manifestation of the truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them who are lost, in whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. For we preach not ourselves, but Christ Yeshua the Lord, and ourselves your servants for Yeshua's sake. For God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, has shined in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Yeshua Messiah. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed. Always bearing about in the body the dying of the Lord Yeshua, that the life also of Yeshua might be made manifest in our body. For we which live are always delivered unto death for Yeshua's sake, that the life also of Yeshua might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. So then, death works in us, but life in you. We having the same spirit of faith, according as it is written, I believed, and therefore have I spoken, we also believe, and therefore speak. Knowing that he which raised up the Lord Yeshua shall raise up us also by Yeshua, and shall present us with you. For all things are for your sakes, that the abundant grace might through the thanksgiving of many redound to the glory of God. For which cause we faint not. But though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, works for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. 2 Corinthians 4. Looking at verse 16, Paul says, "For which cause we faint not." Literally, that means we do not lose heart. Paul knows the secret to not losing heart, and he shares that secret with us in this chapter. I want to spend our time in these verses today. I want to talk on the thought of not losing heart. I want to show you some truths in these verses that will help you to faint not, even when life is at its most discouraging. Go with me through this text. If you are interested in being encouraged, motivated, and in having hope in the Lord, if you want the secret, here is what Paul has to say as we look at today's sermon. The title is Denying the Desire to Lose Heart. In verse 16 again, Paul says, "For which cause we faint not." That is an amazing statement. The word faint refers to a feeling of the heart. And like I said earlier, the phrase can be read this way: we do not lose heart. Paul is telling us that regardless of what comes his way, he doesn't give up, he doesn't give in, he doesn't give out, he doesn't lose heart. It's so easy to lose heart today. It is so easy to come to a place where we're ready to throw in the towel, lay down our burdens, and just quit. It seems to me, just from reading what the Bible says about the life of Paul, that it would have been easy for Paul to lose heart. But here he is saying, "We faint not." That little phrase is in the present tense. It's an active voice. Paul is saying, I never lose heart. He isn't bragging, he's just making a simple statement of fact. Paul has discovered a spiritual secret that enables him to be encouraged even in the midst of circumstances that would have discouraged anyone else. Paul's life was anything but easy. Consider just two passages that speak of the problems Paul was forced to endure in his life. Look at 2 Corinthians 1, verse 8. 2 Corinthians 1, 8 says, "For we would not, brethren, have you ignorant of our trouble, which came to us in Asia, that we were pressed out of measure, above strength, insomuch that we despaired even of life." And a lot of things happened to him in Asia. Look at 2 Corinthians 11. 2 Corinthians 11, verse 23. 2 Corinthians 11, 23. Paul says, "Are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I am more. In labors more abundant, in stripes above measure, in prisons more frequent, in deaths oft. Of the Jews 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. Thrice was I beaten with rods. Once was I stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day I have been in the deep. In journeyings often, in perils of waters, in perils of robbers, in perils by my own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in perils in the city, in perils in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren, in weariness and painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. Beside those things that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, the care of all the churches. Who is weak? I am not weak. Who is offended? And I burn not. If I must needs glory, I will glory of the things which concern my infirmities. So we just read a small sample of the stuff Paul had to endure. Yet in spite of all those trials, tribulations, and burdens, Paul is able to say, I never lose heart. Is there anyone here who can echo that statement? Is there anyone here who can say, I never get discouraged? I never want to give up. I am always encouraged, excited, and energized about my life and my walk with the Lord. I'm not sure anyone here can say that, but I do know I cannot. Now, I hope I'm not out of line by saying we all stumble from discouragement to discouragement. We all want to quit from time to time. We all want to just stop and give up and say no more because we feel that we have given all that we have to give. I know most of us are like David, who said in Psalms 55:6, "Oh, that I had wings like a dove, for then would I fly away and be at rest." I think that if we would be honest, we would all have to admit that we would at times like to sprout a pair of wings and fly far away from the trials, tribulations, and troubles of this life. Now, I know I've been there many times. Now, while there are times when leaving troubles and afflictions behind seems like the best option, we should be far more interested in reaching a place where we can say what Paul said. We should be far more interested in reaching a place where we can say, I faint not. I do not lose heart. I believe that place is available to every one of us, all of God's children. Now, as I've already said, it is very easy to lose heart, especially in this world today. The reason it is so easy is found in verse 16. Paul identifies a common struggle that we all face. Paul says, though our outward man perish. The reason it is so easy for us to lose heart is that the outer man is perishing. The outer man refers to the fleshly part of us, right? It encompasses both the body and the mind. The results of sickness and aging in the body and sin in the mind conspire to strip away joy, hope, and peace of heart and mind. We are told here that the outer man is perishing. And the word perish means to rot, to ruin, to be destroyed. You know, this same word is used in a few other important verses. And these verses help to drive home the power of this thought about our outward parts perishing. Look at Luke 12:33. Luke 12:33. Luke 12:33 says, "Sell that you have and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that fail not, where no thief approaches, neither moth corrupteth." In that verse, the word corrupteth is the same word that is translated perish in our text. Like moths can destroy clothing, the outer man is being eaten alive every single day. The cells in our bodies are corrupted every day and they need to be replenished. Did you know you don't have the same body that you had yesterday? The new cells have replaced the ones that died yesterday. So we're dying every day. Revelation 8. Revelation 8. Revelation 8, verse 8. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Now here the Bible tells us that God will cast a great mountain burning with fire into the sea, and 1/3 of the world's ships will be capsized, consumed, destroyed. Same word. Every day the outer man is being destroyed by the pain, the problems, the burdens, and the trials that are thrown against it. The reason we're so prone to lose heart is because the outer man is being destroyed, corrupted, ruined every day. But we do not lose heart. Even though our outer man, our body, our brain, our lungs, our liver, our hearts, our muscles, and our bones are wasting away, are being destroyed, are being eaten away, are being consumed, and are being wiped out. We don't lose heart. Now, I can say that this destruction of the outer man comes from two sources, at least two sources. The first source is our fallen nature. The whole natural world is under the curse of God because of sin. The world is under a curse of futility, pain, suffering, corruption, and death. Romans 8. Romans 8. Paul tells us in verse 22, but now being made free from sin and become servants of God, you have your fruit unto holiness, and the end, everlasting life. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Yeshua, our Messiah. Everyone in this room will waste away and die. It's the promise of the Word of God in Hebrews 9:27, for it is appointed unto man once to die. We will waste away, we will die. Now we might die of old age and slip out of life in our sleep. We might die as a child or young adult. We might have a sudden heart attack. We might get cancer and waste slowly away. That seems to be the bane of a lot of the members of our churches. Or we might be consumed by Alzheimer's. Or we might die suddenly in a car wreck. We might be struck by lightning. We might leave this world in any of 10,000 ways, but we will die. The outer man is perishing. Go back to 2 Corinthians 4, please. 2 Corinthians 4. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 7. It reminds us that we have this treasure in earthen vessels. That is, we all live out our days in fragile jars of clay. And one day that vessel will crack, it will crumble, and we will fade away. That's the nature of life. If you've lived a while in this world, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These bodies are dying, and they die a little every day. The outer man is perishing, he is dying, he is rotting, he is ruined. He's in the process of being destroyed. And the problems associated with his destruction can cause us to lose heart. Another element in this world that causes us to lose heart is other people. If your fallen nature doesn't get you, fallen people will. Fallen people let us down. Fallen people hurt our feelings. Fallen people fail the Lord. Fallen people hurt us physically, verbally, emotionally, and spiritually. And this can cause us to lose heart. This was Paul's experience. Look at verse 8 in 2 Corinthians 4. Verse 8 says, "We are troubled on every side." But he says, "Yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed. Always bearing about in the body the dying of the Lord Yeshua, that the life also of Yeshua might be made manifest in our body." Verse 12, "So then death works in us." These are our experiences too. We go through this too. And it's so easy to lose heart when life and people turn against you. It is so easy to come to the place where you just want to quit. But you don't have to, do you? No. You don't have to be defeated. You don't have to become a statistic. You don't have to be one of those people who used to walk with God. You don't have to be one of those people who used to go to church. You don't have to be one of those people who used to be faithful. You can reach a place where you do not lose heart. So many brothers, in the many years I've been in the church, I've seen so many brothers come and go. And many times it was because they lost heart. But you can reach a place where you can press on in spite of what presses you down. You can echo the incredible statement that Paul made when he said, "For which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish." What we need, what I need, is to come to the place that Paul came to. I want to reach the place where, though our outward man perishes, I faint not. I want to come to the place where, even though I am attacked from without and from within by a fallen nature and a fallen world, I do not lose heart. I want to come to the place where I do not lose heart regardless of what is going on around me or inside me. This text helps us to do just that. In these verses, Paul shares his secret of keeping heart, even when life turns against him. Let's examine this wonderful secret, because we need that help. We need the help it gives us too. The secret to not losing heart involves at least 3 important realizations. The first one is in verse 16. I keep coming back to verse 16, but that's an important verse. "For which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day." Paul reminds us that while the outward man is perishing, the inward man, the one that counts, is renewed day by day. The natural man, which includes the body and the mind, is dying every day. Every day the mind and the body are assaulted by the effects of sin and sinners. And as a result of the constant attacks on the outward man, it's perishing. Okay. Every day we die a little. Every day we lose a step. Every day we experience heartbreak, sorrow, pain, problems, and other effects of the curse of sin in the world. Every day we endure the problems attendant with living in a world filled with sin and sinners. The things we see, hear, feel, experience, all work against us to try to make us lose heart. The outward man is continually being destroyed right before our eyes. And we can relate to that. But while the outward man grows weaker and ever nearer to the grave, the inner man is renewed day by day. Every day, the inner man is given new strength to face the trials of that day. Christ said it this way in Matthew 6:34. Matthew 6, verse 34. Says, "Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof." That's what our master said. Don't worry about tomorrow. I've given you enough to take care of you today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. And while every day brings with it its unique problems, every day also comes with its own measure of grace from the hands of the Father in heaven. Here is his promise. Look at Lamentations chapter 3. Lamentations 3. And verse 21. Lamentations 3, verse 21. This is a promise from God. He says in verse 21, "This I recall to my mind, therefore have I hope. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul, therefore will I hope in him. The Lord is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seeks him. It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord." Turn to Deuteronomy 33. Deuteronomy 33. And 33 and 25. Deuteronomy 33:25 says, "Thy shoes shall be iron and brass, and as thy days, so shall thy strength be." God gives us strength every day to make it through that day. 2 Corinthians 9. 2 Corinthians 12, 9. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9. And he said, "Unto me my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." The inner man is renewed every day. But we need to understand that this is not just a one-time drink that guarantees us daily strength and renewal. The Lord is offering us a fountain from which we can drink every day. Now, drinking from the fountain he offers promises us that the inner man will be renewed, renovated, and refreshed. But it's done day by day, while the outer man grows weaker and weaker. So, according to Matthew 6:34 that we just read, each day has its own troubles. Thus, each day demands its own supply of grace. The car that is your life was not meant to run on yesterday's gas. You need to refill the tank every day. Your spiritual metabolism cannot survive on yesterday's meals. You need to eat fresh food today. The spiritual dosage that brought healing to your heart yesterday, it's not going to help your symptoms today. You need a fresh dose for the ailments of a fresh day. Your bucket leaks. What you brought up from the well yesterday, it won't be sufficient for the trials you will be called upon to face today. Remember the lesson of the manna in the wilderness? It was only good for that day. No spiritual fuel was designed to run your car for 10 years. No single spiritual meal will power your life for months at a time. No spiritual inoculation will cure the ailments of a new day. The inner man is renewed day by day. He's renewed by fresh fuel, by fresh food, by fresh medicine. So what does this mean? Well, it means you need to feed on the Word of God every day. You need to pray to the Father every day. Just like I talk to my wife every day. There's not a day that goes by I don't speak or say something to my wife. And it should be the same way with God, your Father. You know, even going to church once a week may not be enough for some people. They may need the fellowship of the brethren more than once a week. But you need a fresh supply of God's grace every day of your life. Now, when we enter the kingdom, we'll be supplied with what we need that will last us forever, but not before then. Now we need a fresh supply every single day. You know, it's no wonder so many people lose heart, because they don't make any investment in renewing that inner man day by day. They feed their physical bodies, which are perishing. They put gas in their cars, and they keep the oil changed, and those cars are perishing. They go to the doctor, take their medicines, they take care of their bodies, all of which are perishing. Yet they make no provision for the inner man, who has to be renewed day by day. That new man, that inner man, needs constant renewal as it grows inside us. The reason people lose heart is because they focus their attention on everything but the one thing that matters most in their lives. They take no thought for their relationship with God and for the renewing of the inner man day by day. People think what they got yesterday should be enough for today. And when it isn't enough, instead of going to God for more, they lose heart. Okay. The second important realization involving the secret to not losing heart can be found back in 2 Corinthians 4, verse 17. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 17. It says, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, works for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal." Nothing we face in this life will last forever. Notice carefully the language Paul uses here. He says, our light affliction, which is but for a moment. Let's examine that for a moment, because that's not how it feels when trials come, is it? I mean, it never feels light, and it never seems like it's over in a moment. Now, the word affliction here refers to tribulation, trouble, pressure. And the word light means easy. So here Paul says that the pressure he is under is easy. Now, this is not how Paul described his troubles earlier in the book. Remember what we read in 2 Corinthians 1:8? Want to go back there and I'll read it to you? 2 Corinthians 1:8, where he said, "For we would not, brethren, have you ignorant of our trouble, which came to us in Asia, that we were pressed out of measure above strength, insomuch that we despaired of life." But then he says we had the sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves, but in God which raised the dead, who delivered us from so great a death. And he does deliver, in whom we trust that he will yet deliver us. So he did tell us, though, in that verse 8, that his troubles would seem like more than they could handle to him until he put his trust in God. He said they pushed him beyond his natural bounds. It was literally more than he thought he could take. But now he comes back and he tells us that they are light, easy, and that they're merely here for a moment. What Paul is saying is this: the problems of this life, brothers and sisters, that seem so heavy right now, the troubles that seem as if they will never end, the burdens we think will break us under its weight, are really just weighty for the moment. He tells us that compared with the eternal weight of glory that we will experience when we arrive home in the kingdom, everything we face here is light and easy. Romans 8:18. Very famous verse. You'll recognize it the minute you see it. Romans 8:18. It says, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." That's a verse that we should have memorized. And we should say to ourselves over and over again, especially in times of trouble. Because nothing we face here is worthy to be compared with the glory we will experience there. But you know what? Our problem is this. We hear this, but we don't believe it. What we tend to believe is what we see. You know what I mean. I'm from Missouri, the show me state. I'll believe it when I see it. What we believe is what we feel. What we believe is the pressure we feel. We never think it is easy. You hardly ever hear a believer testify about their problems and say they are light or easy. The reason Paul could see this and we can't is all a matter of perspective. We have our eyes on the here and now. Paul had his eyes on the then and there. Back in 2 Corinthians 4, verse 18, Second Corinthians 4:18, Paul says, or rather he reveals the secret for not losing heart when life tries to kill you. Verse 18 says, "While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal." He says that everything in this world is temporal. It is merely here for a short time, and it will pass away. But what we can't see, those things that are ours in heaven, they are eternal in nature. And we're going to groan here for a few days, but we will rejoice for endless ages in the kingdom. We are going to feel pain here for a short time, but we will experience his glory there in the kingdom forever. Let's read Psalms 30. Psalms 30, verse 5. Psalms 30, verse 5 says, "For his anger endures but for a moment. In his favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Oh, yes. You know, the secret for not losing heart is maintaining a proper perspective. We should ask the Lord to help us to get our eyes off what we can see and to help us to look beyond this world to the glory that awaits us in his presence. The third important realization involving the secret to not losing heart is back in 2 Corinthians 4, the second half of verse 17. 2 Corinthians 4, 17b. Let's go read that. For our light affliction, which is but a moment, works for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. Works for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. That's another amazing statement. Everything we face in life has meaning. Paul tells us that our affliction is working for us. You know, when things happen in our lives, we often look at them and think they're meaningless. We wonder how anything that painful, that senseless, that tragic can have any meaning. But it does. If you are a child of God, nothing that happens in your life is meaningless. Everything that takes place is all a part of your Father's plan to develop you as a child. Just a reminder, God didn't set you apart to make you happy. He didn't set you apart to bless you. He set you apart to make you like Christ. That is his eternal purpose. Everything after that is just gravy. Let's read how Paul said it in Romans 8:28. Romans 8:28. He said, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose, for whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to what? Be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Thus, nothing in your life as a saint is meaningless, although some things do appear to be that way. Okay. I want you to listen to me, brothers, sisters. When cancer comes and drains away your life, it is not meaningless. When your heart breaks and your dreams shatter, it is not meaningless. When your loved one dies at the hands of a drunk driver, it is not meaningless. When your car fails mechanically and someone you love dies, it is not meaningless. When a pastor struggles with problems in his ministry, it's not meaningless. When parents struggle with their children and the decisions that their children make, it's not meaningless. When the tragedies of this life pile on you one after the other, and you are broken, weary, and battered, it's not meaningless. No, these things are working for you. They are for your benefit. One day, when this life is over and you step out of time and into eternity, you will find yourself relieved from the light affliction of this moment and swallowed up in the far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. How do we not lose heart? We do it by seeing that the inward man is renewed day by day. We do that by preaching to ourselves. We do it by reminding ourselves of the truths found in this passage and listening to someone who's trying to tell us what's in it. What did it say back in verse 7? It says that we are in earthen vessels That means we're weak, and we need a power that is outside of ourselves if we are to stand. We cannot stand on our own, and that power comes from God. Preach that truth to your own heart every day. This isn't about you. It's about him. Verses 8 through 13 remind us that we're going to be troubled here because Christ was troubled here. God is doing in us what he did in him. God is revealing himself through us, just like he did it through Christ. You know, the only way people can see the light inside our vessel is for the vessel to be broken. This refers to the attitude revealed in the way we respond to life's heartaches and heartbreaks. We don't lose heart, and people see that. Preach this truth to your heart every day. Verse 14 reminds us that God has a plan in all of this. He will see us through the storms of life and deliver us safely home to glory. Preach this truth to your heart every day. Verse 15 reminds us that everything in life is for the glory of God. Again, remind yourself that this life is not about you. It's not about what you want or about how you feel life should be. It's about God receiving the glory in all things. Preach this truth to yourself every day. Then in verses 16 to 18, we're challenged to get our eyes off this world with its sin and its problems. We're told to look beyond this life to the one that is to come. In that coming world, the cares of this life will seem as nothing compared to the glory that shall be revealed in us. Preach that truth to your heart every day. Live in the truth of who you are in Yeshua the Messiah. You're a pilgrim and a stranger. You're just a person passing through this world on your way home. Along the way, you will become disillusioned, disoriented, defeated, discouraged, but you don't have to lose heart. God can and will help you make the journey home with glory in your soul. And you know what? When you're living in eternity and you look back on this life, you'll see it for the blip in time it really was. In closing, let me leave you with this last bit of advice. You will make it into the kingdom if you keep your eyes on him and not on what you see.